If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of three. Inside my online program, FitNest Mama, I just love helping support women to care for their bodies during pregnancy, prepare their bodies for birth, and support their after-birth recovery, helping them feel confident and strong inside out during this important stage of their lives. In this podcast, join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth, and postnatal recovery, helping you through every step of the journey. It is absolutely possible to feel amazing and confident in our bodies during this motherhood journey, and I want that for you. Come and say hi to me on Instagram at FitNestMama, and let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. So today's chat is with Kiara, third time on this podcast. I've never had a guest before on 3 times. It was such a pleasure to chat with Kiara, who's a member inside FitNest Mama, and she talked us through her second birth story, but mostly her recovery journey. So if you are wanting to help support your postpartum recovery, if you're wanting to try to be as proactive as possible with your postnatal recovery, and if you want to learn about Kiara's experience with not just one recovery journey, but 2, you're going to love this episode because Kiara really talks us through, I guess, how she prepared for birth the first time round and how that was different second time round, and in particular, how she supported her postpartum second time round, knowing what she knew with her first baby. So she gave some really great practical tips and advice on ways that really helped with her postpartum recovery so that she actually felt amazing after her second birth compared to her first birth. So yeah, if you love a good birth story or if you really want to be proactive with your postpartum recovery, this podcast episode is absolutely for you. Before we do dive in, just a quick reminder, if you would like to join us inside FitNest Mama for pregnancy workouts to help you stay strong during pregnancy, to help you exercise, even if you've got pelvic girdle pain, abdominal muscle separation, if you want our physio-created workouts, or if you want to prepare your body for birth with perineal massage, active birth techniques, learn what you can do to support your pelvic floor for birth, and importantly, your postnatal rehab, then FitNest Mama is for you. There is a 7-day free trial, so you can trial it 7 days free and join us for easy, short, quality, convenient workouts from your home or whilst your bubba sleeps, whilst your toddler runs around, or at the end of a long day at work. Head to fitnestmama.com. And without further ado, let's jump into this beautiful episode with Kiara. Kiara, thank you so much for joining me on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast, a beautiful member inside FitNest, 8 weeks postpartum with your second baby, and I think this is going to be a really great conversation. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Kath, and thanks for having me back.
Yes, so I will link your initial, it's just the one podcast episode we've done, isn't it? 2. Oh gosh, I had a quick moment before I hit record. I was like, have we done the 1 or 2? This shows how many podcast episodes I've done. I've done 250. I can't remember them all.
That's amazing.
Yes, so I will link those in the show notes, absolutely. So this time we're talking about your second baby, 8 weeks old. You got 2 little girls. Reintroduce yourself as Kiara. Take it away.
Thank you. So I have my second baby, Ali, or Aliana was her name, Ali for short, and I've got Ruby, who is my beautiful toddler, and she turned 2 in April. So life is very different at the moment. I've taken a pause on working on my business and just, focusing on toddler and newborn life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's been a wild ride.
We were just talking off air and I should have hit record, but How is motherhood with 2 children?
It's messy and exciting and chaotic. I like to say beautiful chaos, though, because it helps reset or reframe that chaos. And it's certainly, I know what people talk about when they say it takes a village to raise children. I feel like it also takes a village to raise the mama as well. So let's make sure that, the mother is well looked after. And I feel like I put some things into place to make sure I was well looked after. And then I can be the best that I can be for my newborn and also for my toddler.
So I know we're going straight into the motherhood side, but I feel like we have to
Rewind.
take this tangent. Well, let's just go on that point that you just mentioned. How did things change with your second recovery compared to your first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like any first-time mum, I made the mistake of focusing so much on the birth. So I knew exactly about all the stages of labour and I felt like I was really well prepped, but postpartum recovery completely shocked me that first time around. So I upon reflection, and my husband and I had some really good conversations around what we needed to do and what help we needed for this postpartum recovery to just make it the best that we could. And also just knowing I needed that extra energy for a toddler as well. You know, when you only have one, you can spend that extra time resting, because when they're sleeping, I mean, you could be doing housework, but you also don't have to be doing housework. You could be resting. That's really a choice. But when you have a toddler, you don't have the same choices. So, I felt like that was really important to me to make sure I had that energy.
Yeah. Okay, hit pause. We'll remember this. We will take up this line of conversation in a little bit. But I would like to rewind to your pregnancy, second time pregnancy. Let's chat mostly about your new little bubba, Ellie. Pregnancy second time round. Was it different? Same? How did you prepare differently whilst you were pregnant with Ellie?
I wished it was a little bit different, but unfortunately it was the same, as in extremely sick for the first 5 months. It did not let up after that first trimester. It kept going. So that was a really challenging time to be constantly sick and trying to navigate work and also looking after a toddler she was at daycare as well a couple of days a week, but on those days that I had her, that was really tough, being in the thick of nausea and vomiting. Yeah.
How did you manage it?
2 things. My husband worked from home a lot more so that he could help me when I needed it. And also we did need to use our village, which part of that village is daycare. So we did actually up her days at daycare to help me get through that.
Yeah. So were you vomiting, or like when you were saying you were feeling nauseous and vomiting, what did that actually mean day to day?
Yeah, it meant that I wasn't able to eat much during the day, and come nighttime, I was vomiting most nights, and had the real nausea and dizziness during the day. So I really struggled to stand up for, any length of time. And every time I felt like I moved around. And so that was quite heartbreaking for me, because even simple things like taking Ruby to the park, I couldn't even manage that, or taking her to, play centre or something. So that mum guilt really crept in, because I felt like I was failing her, because all I could do was sit on the couch and watch her play, or get her to bring me books so that we could read books together on the couch. So that mentally, that was a really tough time to get through.
Yeah, wow. Was that your whole pregnancy?
The first 5 months.
First 5 months.
Yeah,
oh
and
gosh.
then it let up a little bit, which was good. And then, it came back again. Not the vomiting, which was great, just the acid reflux. But I got some prescription medication for that. And I'm so glad I did that, because it really did make a big difference.
Oh, great. Were you ever in hospital?
Just the ambulance came out one night because I just couldn't move off the bathroom floor. But they managed to stabilize everything. And they said, look, we can definitely take you to hospital, but you're going to be so much more comfortable at home. So we're going to do everything we can to try and get you to a point where we can keep you at home, which I was very grateful for. I was happy to stay at home.
Did you have a drip at home? Like, how did they?
Yeah, and just some really strong medication.
Yeah, right.
So that it meant that I could actually keep some fluids down. And of course, that's a really good flow-on effect, is when you can keep the fluids down, you feel better, and then you can keep the food down and you just keep getting stronger from there.
Whew, can't even imagine it. Not fun, hey?
So I think it's safe to say I'm completed for 2 children. I don't think I can go through that again, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've had a similar conversation with Vanessa from A Little Birth, and for those who are interested in hearing more about this conversation, like with the hyperemesis, I will link that in the show notes. But she said the same after 2, and I think she ended up going back for a 3rd. I think I'll have to double check that podcast episode now. But right, so 5 months, you're feeling gross. You start to see a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the final 4 months. Talk me through, you touched on it a little bit at the start, but you've got birth looming, you've got a toddler. How did your preparation for birth, well, did it differ? How did it differ second time round?
I think I was more confident in my body, just knowing that my body really does know what it needs to do. And I know that if things don't go according to quote unquote a plan, then I know, what are the alternatives, and I knew, what sort of needed to happen. So I guess from that aspect, I felt mentally prepared. Although in saying that, the other part of me was then also worried, thinking that, maybe it was a fluke, that first birth, like maybe it just, what if my body, doesn't know what to do and things go wrong this time around? Because I did have that really positive experience the first time. I guess that voice in the back of my head was thinking, what if you can't do it this time? And when I say can't do it, I mean that, what if things go wrong and I have to have some pretty big interventions?
Yeah. So quick recap. Can you explain to us what happened first time round with the birth?
Yeah. Ruby came a week early. So I guess that just caught me off guard a little bit, because I had in my head that first time mums tend to go over. So I was thinking in my head that I at least still had 7 to 10 days. So I wasn't at that point of being really nervous and I guess really over pregnancy, because I was mentally prepared for, that next week or 2. So when she came early, I just, it was that shock of, this is actually happening. And it was, for a first time birth, it was a fairly quick birth as well. I started feeling contractions at about 7 p.m. and she was born at, or just after midnight. Okay. So that was a fairly quick birth for, first time. Yeah.
And you didn't have any pain relief?
I just had the water injections for the back pain, which really helped my back pain. So they're not sure if she was posterior or not, but I really felt the back pain. And as soon as I had the water injections, that pain then just almost disappeared from my back. And then I could feel everything, obviously, from the contractions perspective. Yeah.
And then in terms of, again, this is with your first birth, so just because I always find it a little bit, it's a bit different when interviewing someone who's just had 1 baby versus 2, because really we can't tell a second birth story without sort of understanding a bit of the background. Yeah. So there's a little bit of chopping and changing, but just the last thing with your first bubs with Ruby, how was your recovery? Any tearing? How was your pelvic floor recovery? and that side of things?
Lucky I did some good preparation with the Fitness Mama classes because I felt like, pelvic floor and everything was good. I had a grade 2 tear, and that was partly because everything happened so quickly that the midwife said, obviously, my body didn't have a lot of time to actually prepare. So, she wasn't surprised that I did have a tear. So I did need stitches, and I found that side of things quite uncomfortable. I was, I guess, under the false illusion that if you didn't have a C-section, so if you were able to have a vaginal birth, then I didn't think that there was anything to it. And I think that's what the shock came from, is that I was in quite a bit of pain. And so, and then also with the abdominal separation, I didn't have much of a separation, but still that, again, that strange feeling of not feeling like you have any abdominal muscles, and you can't sit up straight. So I found that strange, and in terms of being able to lift anything. And I think, Kath, you've mentioned that before, is you get specific, if you have a C-section, you get specific instructions. Do not drive, do not lift things, you need to rest, you get all these things, but I feel like you have a vaginal birth and you're just let out and you're not told any of those things. And it's almost like it's just expected that then you'll just bounce back and you'll be fine. But I feel like that we should be told those things, that you need to rest, maybe not about the driving, but particularly around lifting things as well.
Absolutely. There's no easy way to have birth, and each of them needs a unique recovery, like for both cesarean or vaginal birth. I agree. I wish there was so much that we knew beforehand when it came to supporting our recovery, because there's so much we can do.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I was in FitNest and knew about that as well, so I could really advocate for myself, because I think from a society perspective, it's, you had a quick birth and B, a vaginal birth. So what's the problem? Surely,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found that really tricky to navigate.
But you were an absolute champion. I remember, because with Ruby, that was like in COVID times, wasn't it? But you were at every single class and you were there, like you were so proactive with your postnatal recovery. You did such an amazing job.
Thank you.
So I was always like, well done, Kiara. Okay, so second time round, again, you've had nauseousness. Now I'd love to know, what did you focus on in those last few weeks of pregnancy when you knew that birth was on your doorstep and you knew this was happening? Like, what changed? If anything?
And that's a really great question, because when I said about my first birth being early, that I got a bit of a shock, it was almost like this time I expected Ali to be early. So, I made sure with work and everything that I was wrapped up. I did work up until about 38 and a half weeks. So I thought, I'm only going to have a couple of days to rest and relax. That's fine. And lo and behold, she was actually a little bit late. So I ended up having 2 weeks, which mentally I didn't know I was going to have. So I think it was such a strange feeling of every day going, is today going to be the day? Whereas I didn't have that feeling with Ruby, because I mentally prepared that she was still another week or 2 away. Whereas this time around, it's so funny that it was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So that mental waiting time was, I found a bit challenging. But also the pelvic girdle pain was really tough towards the end. I was having a couple of sessions with the chiro, and she said that my ligaments were preparing perfectly for childbirth because they were so lax. But of course, that meant that I was in a great deal of pain.
Yeah.
So that was tough, that last couple of weeks to get through in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you, apart from the chiro, how else did you manage your pelvic girdle pain?
It was, rest, exercises as well, some stretching. So I definitely did the Fitness Mama classes, like the pelvic girdle friendly ones. And that was amazing I did a lot of them on the Swiss ball. So I felt like I was still able to get a good workout because I struggled to walk for maybe any more than 15 minutes at a time. So to feel like I was still exercising, that was really helpful doing those classes.
And for anyone listening, it's such a shame because walking is amazing. It's free, it gets you out in the fresh air. It's beautiful for mental health and it's so easy and accessible. But if you've got pelvic girdle pain, unfortunately, it might come to a period of time where walking aggravates your pelvic girdle pain. So that's where if you can find something that works for you and your lifestyle, where you're doing modified, like pelvic girdle pain friendly workouts, whatever that is that suits you. Like we offer it inside FitNest Mama, but maybe it's getting in the pool or whatever works for you. Like that's amazing because I think that's really key because you don't want to just stop exercising altogether because that can, the slippery slope, increase weakness, stiffness, tightness. Like movement is medicine. So that was so great you were able to find some things to help.
And it's amazing that you said about walking for mental health because I didn't realize how much I appreciated walking, whereas now that I'm 8 weeks postpartum and able to walk, 30 minutes at a time, I'm really enjoying it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, being able to walk,
Yeah. Okay, so you've got pelvic girdle pain. Was there any thought in terms of preparing for birth, like first time round?
I was actually really lucky to be part of the midwife program this time. So I went through the public system both times and had a fantastic experience. I think we're very lucky in Australia to have that in the public system. So this time I had the same midwife for every appointment and I also had her mobile number as well. So if I had any questions or felt anything, I could text her or call her at any time. So that was really different for my preparation this time. I felt really confident knowing that I've got that one person to call. And I guess, it was just making sure I felt really well rested going into birth because I knew that was going to be tough. And also postpartum, I knew that was going to be much harder with a toddler. So in those last couple of weeks, just taking it day by day and making sure that rest was at the forefront of what I was doing.
So talk us through the day that you gave birth. Take us on that journey.
Yeah, I still remember it like it was yesterday because I woke up thinking, is today going to be the day? So my husband was actually supposed to go to a conference at Crown Casino, which is only about half an hour drive from us, so it's not far at all. But he didn't want to go because he knew that I was over by this point and I could go at any time. And it was almost like, get out of the house. I need some peace and quiet and I need to nest without you telling me off either. So I got him out of the house, got Ruby off. She was at my mum's house that day. So I had the house to myself. And of course, I ran around like a maniac doing all these different chores. And so just during the day, I was actually even on a coaching call. I remember this because it's in my calendar, and that was at 12 o'clock. And I made a joke because the lady on the coaching call said, "Oh, aren't you heavily pregnant?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it could happen today." So I made that joke and that it did actually happen. So I did the coaching call. And then suddenly in the afternoon, I felt really tired, like that exhaustion of, oh no, I've pushed past the point. And I was supposed to pick my daughter up from my mum's house, which it would have been about a half an hour drive because it was sort of peak hour traffic by the time I was going. And I rang my mum about 4 o'clock and I just said, "Oh, Mum, look, I'm just suddenly not feeling well. I'm just not up for the drive. Are you able to keep her for the night? And I'll come and get her tomorrow morning." And she said, "How are you feeling?" I said, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm just really tired and I just don't feel like driving at the moment. So I think she was on to me a little bit because I maybe wasn't telling the whole truth about how I was actually feeling. I went back to resting, and then my husband called me about 5 o'clock and because they were supposed to go out for a dinner afterwards. And I said, yeah, definitely go out for dinner. I'm fine. And he just said, "No, I don't trust you." there's something in your voice. I'm coming home now. And I just said to him, don't be dramatic.
And were you feeling fine? Were you just feeling tired, or were you getting
Look, I was getting
yeah.
mild cramps, but it turns out that, they were probably contractions.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought, no, it's fine. Because they were only quite mild. So I thought I at least had hours and hours before anything was going to happen.
Yep.
I should have known, and he definitely knew. So lucky he's a bit smarter than I am, and he was straight home. And so I thought, okay, before he comes home, I'll quickly get the things that I wanted to get done. So I was scrubbing Ruby's daycare clothes. I was quickly mopping the floors. I put a load of washing on. I was like, okay, excellent. The house is looking spotless. This is brilliant. I feel good. I'm going to have a lay down and listen to, because I did a hypnobirthing course for the first time around. So I still had all the hypnosis tracks. So I said, okay, I'm going to lay in bed and listen to a hypnosis. And then my husband got home around 6 and he came upstairs and he said, oh, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm just trying to relax. I'm sort of starting to feel a few things. And he said, yeah, okay, no worries. I'm just going to go down and have dinner just so that I'm, all prepared, and then I'll come back up and sit with you and we'll take it from there. I said, yeah, brilliant. And then just while he was downstairs, I was suddenly starting to get really uncomfortable. So I thought, okay, I'm going to hop in the shower and get some nice hot water on me. So got in the shower, and then suddenly I was so uncomfortable that I was really struggling to stand up. So, and in that time, my husband came back up and I said, can you get my Swiss ball for me? I'm going to sit on that in the shower. Once I was sitting down, that was really nice because I had the nice hot water on my back. And he said, right, let's call the hospital. And I said, no, it's too early. I think the contractions are still, 5 or 10 minutes apart. Like, let's just time them first because that's what they'll want to know. And then we'll call. He's like, all right. So he timed them and he said, Kiara, they're less than 2 minutes apart. I was like, oh, okay, maybe call the hospital, maybe call the midwife. So my midwife didn't answer, unfortunately. So he just called the hospital. And because they had my notes from my previous birth, they said, get her in straight away. Like, do not mess around. You need to. And he's like, right, get out of the shower. We're going. So I said, I found it actually quite hard to get out of the shower because I was somewhat comfortable in there. So I eventually got out, and then I heard the beep on the washing machine. So I said to my husband, can you hang out the washing before we leave?
Love it.
He was not happy with that. He was like, are you serious? So I'm bent over the kitchen bench having pretty intense contractions while he's hanging out the washing.
You were so relaxed. How are you so relaxed, Kiara?
Well, the thought of having the wet laundry in the washing machine was more disturbing
than having the baby at home.
Yeah, exactly. So he was not happy at me for making him do that. So, but he knew better than to go against me. So it's just like, all right, I'll just quickly hang it out. So we made our way to the hospital. We're very, very close to the hospital. So it took less than 10 minutes to get there. So that was great because I was, getting quite uncomfortable. As soon as we got to the assessment centre, they obviously were expecting us. So they took me straight in and they said I was 4 centimetres dilated, which I thought, oh, okay. I actually thought I was a bit further on than that. So again, mentally, I was like, oh, okay, great. We've still got a number of hours to go, only being 4 centimetres dilated. And then they got me into the birthing suite. They asked if I wanted a wheelchair and I was like, no, I don't need a wheelchair. And then I was trying to walk along the corridor and I was holding the walls. So I was thinking maybe I should have just taken the wheelchair. In my head, I was like, I'm only 4 centimetres. I don't need a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And then I got into the beautiful birthing suite and they had the bath all filled for me, which I didn't I didn't know that that was happening. They just filled it for me just in case. So as soon as I saw that water, I was like, right. So I just took off all my clothes. I did not care at all. And I just hopped straight in that water. And the relief, again, was pretty amazing because I had the adrenaline shakes because it was all, again, just happening really, really quickly. My body was just kind of shaking uncontrollably, and I wasn't hot, I wasn't cold. So that as soon as I got in the water, that actually subsided, which was really nice. And then my husband said to the midwife, I'm just going to go and move the car because it's just in the loading zone. And she just looked at him and said, no, don't go anywhere. And I heard that and I looked at her as if to say, we just got here. Why can't he take 10 minutes to move the car? So that kind of really shocked me as to think, oh, okay, this is obviously happening really quickly. And then he asked if I could have the water injections again because my back was really sore. And she said, yeah, we can look into that, but let's just give it 10 minutes. And again, I just couldn't understand why couldn't you just go and get them ready now? But she obviously knew what was about to happen because then suddenly I needed to push. And yeah, not long, 10 minutes later, beautiful Eliana was born.
Wow. So you were in hospital in your room for how long before?
Less than 30 minutes.
Right.
So we got to the hospital, just before 8, and she was born at 8:40 p.m.
Yeah, wow. And how long was your pushing phase?
According to my report, 12 minutes.
Wow.
So that was, that kind of shocked me as well. Because again, I felt like it was just a whirlwind. It was all happening really quickly and I just couldn't quite get my head around it. And I kept saying to the midwife, I was just mopping the floors 2 hours ago. What's happening?
Yeah. And how did your body respond to having such a quick birth?
Part of that was making sure that I had to really slow down my breathing because, again, I think learning that from the first time when it all happened so suddenly, I was pushing quite a lot, whereas this time the midwife really talked me through breathing. So I didn't actually need to specifically push. I was just focusing on that breathing element so that I could slow it down a little bit. And so that was amazing on the midwife because, she just talked me through it perfectly. And, I was able to, slow it down and get her out a bit easier.
And did you get the shakes or anything afterwards?
Yes. I actually struggled to hold her afterwards. I needed Steve my husband, to almost wrap his arms around me and help me hold her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's quite common, isn't it? I'm not sure. It's obviously not my area of expertise, but with a really quick birth.
Yeah.
To have the shakes, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really odd feeling as well. Yeah, especially not feeling like I was able to hold her properly.
Did you know it was going to be a little girl?
We did actually. We kept it a secret though. We didn't tell anyone that we knew it was a girl.
So how did it feel when she was when you were holding her?
I was in a lot of shock, I have to say. It took me actually a little bit to process what had happened. And so I just needed a bit of time. I actually needed my husband to just hold her for a bit while I could just kind of gather my thoughts and get ready to also do the third stage.
So when you say you were in shock, can you describe what was happening?
I just felt like we'd only just gotten to the hospital. I felt like I was just talking to my husband not that long before saying, no, go out for dinner. I've got plenty of time. And then it just seemed to just, really quickly ramp up. So it's like my brain just didn't catch up to what was actually happening.
Yeah. Was it overwhelming?
Yeah, I felt very overwhelmed.
So how long did it take to, I guess, adjust and be able to hold Ellie again?
So they got me out of the bath because they wanted me to deliver the placenta on the bed. So I did all of that. And then just, I guess, what really helped me settle back down was the environment was just so calming. There was only one midwife in there. She was just, her demeanor was just so, relaxed, calming. And then I had something to eat as well, because I think I was shaking so much because I hadn't had any dinner, because obviously I was, going through birth at dinner time. So I realized I hadn't eaten for quite a long time before then. So I had something to eat. And then, I was able to hold her again. So not long afterwards. And I think just chatting to the midwife as well about that birthing process, she was really, it seemed like, she wasn't too busy to just stop and chat to me. And almost having that debrief helped me, help everything sink in a little bit better.
Yeah. Amazing. And I think that debrief can be so important. Like it's, amazing. So how did Ellie respond? Like, how was your first feed?
I was actually really worried about that because, again, if we look at comparing, Ruby really struggled to latch. I ended up staying in hospital with her for a couple of nights just because I didn't feel confident going home because she just wasn't feeding. So I guess that was actually in my mind. And in order to help prepare for that, I actually did a breastfeeding course during pregnancy. So part of that, I felt a lot more prepared this time around. So she didn't latch that first time. So they just expressed some colostrum, gave her some colostrum. That was all good. And then I thought that I needed to feed her every 3 hours. I forgot about the whole 24 hours of a newborn. They don't really feed that much because they're so sleepy. So at about 2 a.m., I tried to wake her, but she wouldn't wake to feed. So I paged the midwife and she was so lovely. She's just like, no, looks really content. She doesn't need a feed right now. Just let her sleep. And I was like, okay, no problem. So we tried again at 5 and she just latched straight away. And ever since then, she's fed beautifully.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So that's been a really nice journey.
Yeah. That's amazing. It is. And look, I think everyone does have a different story, but that's a really common theme. It's a real challenge for you first, and it gets easier with each baby you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it was just one of those things that was such a shock. First time around, you just expect that it's going to happen. I just was under this false illusion that breastfeeding was just one of those things that just happen. And anyone that didn't breastfeed, I just thought it was just by choice that was what they wanted to do. But little did I know that, there's so many people out there that just struggle to breastfeed, and I can absolutely empathize with their situation because I felt like I tried everything and it still didn't work out for us. So I'm so grateful. I feel so grateful this time around that it's worked out for us because I just have this deep level of appreciation, just knowing that unfortunately sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I'm so glad it did. So at the start, you alluded to the fact that your postpartum recovery journey was very different second to first time round. Can you talk us through your recovery?
Yeah. I guess if we talk about immediate recovery, I didn't require stitches this time, which made a huge difference because even after a couple of days, I felt like I hadn't given birth. Whereas the first time around having stitches, I absolutely felt like I had given birth even weeks afterwards. So that was a really nice change. Again, I was focusing on the resting because I knew how important that was. So we made sure we had some assistance with our toddler. And of course, my husband had time off work, so he could really help out with her so that I could rest. Nutrition, really had a focus on nutrition this time around. So not only frequent meals and snacks, but also just really nourishing foods that were easy to digest. So because I've got a winter baby, it was soups and stews with some really nice spices. And I did a lot of research into postpartum recovery nutrition. And yeah, I made sure that that was a big focus this time around.
Did you make your own bone broth?
Funny story, we tried and we forgot all about it on the stove, and it actually all absorbed and burnt.
You tried and never again.
And we failed. It definitely failed. So along with the meals though, a big part of that was I actually hired a postpartum doula to come and help us out once a week for 6 weeks. And she was made me some beautiful meals and snacks too. And then she cooked enough so that I had lunch for the next couple of days as well after she was there.
Give her a shout out. Who was it?
It's Sam. So she's actually, we've got our last session this week. So Sam from New Season Doula Care. So she's been absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's so good. And I think there's so much to be said for that. Just having someone else who's there to help you. Like, you know, often, as you said, your husband might be busy with your toddler, with Ruby, you know, helping out, really helpful, but just having someone there just solely for you, I think, amazing.
And I think I mentioned that I feel like the mother needs to be mothered as well. And I just was really craving that, not only the support of, say, for example, meals, but also that emotional support as well. You know, I knew that every Monday I looked forward to that, and I knew that she was going to be there, and I didn't have to feel guilty about asking her if she could help out or if she could do something. And whenever she walked in, it was just this beautiful, calming presence. And she'd always like make me a cup of tea to start with, and we'd sit down and we'd debrief about the week. And I felt like I was just able to get out a lot of things that maybe I wasn't able to get out with my husband or with my other friends.
It's the village, isn't it? Like we don't have the village these days. So you almost need to sort of manufacture your own village, or create, not manufacture, but we need to consciously think, right, who's going to be in my village, because it's just not there naturally in this day and age.
So initially when I wanted to do this, my husband wasn't on board. He was thinking, why do we need someone? Like, I do the cooking, I will help out. And I said to him, it's not that. Like, I also want a really good experience for you as well. I don't want you to feel like you have to do everything. I want this to be a really nice experience for both of us. And that was a big part of why I chose to do that. And I'm so grateful, because it wasn't an easy investment for us. You know, we're only on one wage, and we're building a house at the moment as well as renting. So we're double paying. And of course, just general cost of living. So it definitely wasn't an easy thing to go, we'll definitely get that. So we had to really save and pay it off. And but I'm so grateful that we did, because it made a big difference.
And what's your husband's view now in hindsight of having the doula?
He loves her coming over. He's like, can you come back, please?
What did he love the most? Like, how did he find it most helpful?
Again, the same thing that I mentioned, he just said he just loves that she's just so calming, and we felt like we could just talk to her about things that maybe have happened, especially when we were struggling with Ruby's behavior initially. You know, she would help talk us through it. And because she had met Ruby as well, she knew that she was quite an adventurous, energetic soul. So she was really able to empathize with our situation.
Amazing. Sounds like the fairy godmother we all need.
It was just basically like a mum coming in every week and just almost like giving me this big hug, nice cup of tea, beautiful meal, and just there to simply support me rather than like I'm there supporting Ellie. And so to have someone specifically for me was nice. So
beautiful. So is there anything else you want to mention that really helped with your postpartum recovery this second time round?
I did some of the Core Connect classes as well. So I don't know whether that, I feel like that also made a really big difference, because I didn't worry about doing any form of exercise until after my 6-week checkup last time, whereas just doing those gentle, connection with the core. I just had my 6-week checkup with the women's health physio, and she said she said my core and pelvic floor is looking absolutely amazing. So I was really happy to hear that.
Amazing. So for those listening, if you're not sure what Kiara's talking about, inside FitNest Mama, there's a lot of online programs and in-person programs start from 6 weeks onwards, which is great because you do need that medical tick of approval before getting into, structured exercise. But there is also a lot we can do safely in those first 6 weeks that are very functional. I don't even call them workouts. That's why, as Kiara said, they're core connect. And they're very functional movements to help re-engage your pelvic floor and core in a safe way postpartum. So that's so great you found them helpful.
Yeah. And again, just making sure that I really prioritize rest, because I knew that I needed to not try and be superwoman and not try to do everything. I could have easily, done the housework and done bits and pieces. But in my head, I was like, I need to, just save as much strength as I can, because now 8 weeks postpartum, I'm feeling really, really good. And I think that was due to especially that first 6 weeks of just making sure that I had my recovery as a top priority and getting help with Ruby. So again, a lot of that was daycare, and we did up her days so that we could, so that I could be at home resting. And I know that that's not possible for everyone, but I know that she just loves it so much. So that was really grateful to do that. The other thing I had, which also I feel has made a really big difference, is I had an iron infusion late pregnancy this time around, because my iron levels took a massive dip during pregnancy, which I know that they do, but they fell quite significantly. And even after supplements, they didn't improve at all. So having the iron infusion, whereas I didn't even get my bloods checked that first time around. So I wouldn't have had any idea what my iron levels were, but I feel like they were quite low because I really struggled with my energy levels. Yeah.
Amazing. So you're full of wisdom, Kiara. 2 babies in, you just you've got a really beautiful, calm aura about you, and you're taking motherhood in your stride and learning and adapting as you go. Love it.
Thank you so much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today for a 3rd time coming on the podcast. I think you're the first guest ever to come on 3 times.
Oh, so amazing.
Thank you so much. It was so lovely to hear your story and your journey. So again, I will link all the previous episodes, but also would you like to share how people can come and find you?
Yeah, so I've still got my business ticking over, but I'm just not seeing any clients at the moment, but I'm at Inside Out Health Wellness on Instagram.
Amazing. And you've got a podcast too, which has got some great episodes on.
Yeah, my podcast, Become Your Own Best Friend. I will eventually get into recording episodes again. But for now,
all in good time.
For now, it's just been resting and enjoying that beautiful newborn bubble. I've wanted to, just soak up every part of it, because I know that it just goes so quickly. And I've just wanted to really take advantage of lots of cuddles.
Yeah, amazing. Do you have any final tips for anyone listening today that you wanted to share?
Final tips are, during that recovery, just as much as you can, prioritize yourself and just work out what you need for that support, and just work out how you can make that happen. As I said, we had a couple of challenges that, financially, it probably wasn't the smartest decision for us to make, but we still made it happen. And as a result, those things have really paid off. And even doing something like the breastfeeding course that I did, and just really informing myself about how I could make that postpartum recovery the best that I could. And I feel like it's all paid off really well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kiara.
Thanks, Kat.
We'll chat to you soon.
Bye.
And before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Kiara at fitnessmama.com/podcast. Have a fabulous day, and I look forward to you joining me very soon for another episode of the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. Thanks for listening to the FitNest Mama podcast, brought to you by the FitNest Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at FitNest Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer: materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I'll see you soon.